Welcome to the other side, where we explore stories that blur the lines between the ordinary and the unknown. Tonight, I'm taking you on a journey into the eerie and unsettling, a tale of rules, shadows, and a night that will leave you questioning what's real. Sit back, turn down the lights, and join me as we step into the darkness.
I've done odd jobs before. As a 25-year-old trying to piece together some semblance of a steady income, I've learned to take what I can get. But this job, I should have walked away the moment I stepped into that grocery store. It started with a phone call. The man on the other end spoke in curt, heavily accented English.
We need help. 2 nights only, $2,500. You interested?
I didn't ask questions. The pay was good, and my rent wasn't going to wait. The store was tucked into a quiet corner of the city, dimly lit and almost hidden between 2 larger buildings. The kind of place you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. I arrived just as the sun dipped below the horizon. A flickering neon sign buzzed above the entrance, spelling out the store's name in Japanese that I couldn't read. The air outside was unusually cold for that time of year, and the streets were eerily quiet. No cars, no distant chatter, just the faint hum of the neon sign and the occasional rustle of leaves skittering across the pavement. It felt wrong, like the world had taken a step back, holding its breath. Inside, the owner, a gaunt old man with sharp eyes and a perpetual scowl, was waiting for me. His skin was almost ashen under the fluorescent lights, his movements deliberate but stiff, like his body was just barely holding together. He didn't say much, just handed me a clipboard with a list of tasks and a piece of paper with another list. The rules.
Read these carefully.
He said, his voice low but firm.
Follow them exactly. No exceptions.
I glanced at the paper, expecting the usual safety guidelines. Instead, my stomach tightened as I read the list. Rule number 1. Do not speak to any customers. The store is closed. Rule number 2. If you see someone, they are not a customer. Rule number 3. Do not look at the mirrors for more than 3 seconds. Rule number 4. If you see movement that isn't yours, leave the aisle immediately. Rule number 5. At exactly 1:13 a.m., go to the storage room and lock the door. Do not come out until the alarm clock in there reads 1:30 a.m. Rule number 6. If you hear the bell at the front door, do not investigate. Continue with your work as if nothing happened. Rule number 7. If the power goes out, stand perfectly still. Do not move until the lights return. Rule number 8. Under no circumstances should you answer your phone if it rings after midnight, even if it's my number on the screen. I felt a shiver crawl up my spine. This some kind of joke? I asked, forcing a laugh to hide my unease. The owner's expression didn't change. His eyes, dark and sunken, locked onto mine.
Do you want the job or not?
I wanted to say no. Every instinct screamed at me to walk away, but rent, bills, the promise of good pay. I nodded.
Good. Start in aisle 3. Stock the rice and noodles. Don't forget the rules.
And with that, he disappeared into the back of the store, leaving me alone. The first hour was uneventful. I kept my head down, focused on stacking packages of instant ramen and lining up bags of rice. The store was eerily quiet. The only sounds the hum of the fluorescent lights and the occasional creak of the building settling. Then, I heard it. The soft ding of the front doorbell. I froze. The store was closed. The doors had been locked. I glanced toward the entrance, my heart hammering. A man in a dark suit stood just inside, his back to me. His presence was off. His posture was too rigid. His head tilted ever so slightly as if listening for something. I couldn't hear. He didn't move, didn't make a sound. Then I remembered the rule number 1. Do not speak to any customers. I swallowed hard and turned back to my work, pretending not to notice. My hands trembled as I placed another bag of rice on the shelf. My ears strained for any sound behind me. But there was nothing. When I glanced back, the man was gone. I told myself it was just my imagination, the shadows playing tricks on me, but the unease lingered, a weight pressing on my chest. It was 1:12 a.m. when I remembered. Rule 5. I dropped the box I was holding and hurried to the storage room. The door had a heavy deadbolt, which I slid into place as soon as I was inside. The room was small and cluttered, but my eyes found the old alarm clock immediately. 1:13 a.m. The air felt thicker in there, like the walls were closing in. For 17 minutes, I sat in silence, my ears straining for any sound. Once, I thought I heard footsteps outside the door, slow and deliberate. They stopped just outside, followed by a soft scraping noise, like nails dragging across the wood. My heart raced, and I pressed my back against the far wall, clutching the clipboard like a shield. But the footsteps eventually faded, and at 1:30 a.m., the clock's alarm buzzed, breaking the suffocating silence. I cautiously unlocked the door and stepped out. The store looked exactly as I'd left it, but the oppressive atmosphere remained. The second night was worse. I'd barely started restocking when the power went out. The sudden darkness was suffocating. The silence absolute. Rule 7. Stand perfectly. Still. Something brushed past me. A faint rustling, like fabric dragging along the floor. My muscles screamed, begging me to run, but I didn't move. I felt the air shift, cold and sharp, as if something was circling me. The sound faded, and after what felt like an eternity, the lights flickered back on. I was alone. Again. Or so I hoped. My phone rang at 12:17 a.m. The screen lit up with the owner's name. My hands shook as I hit decline. It rang again and again. Each time I let it go to voicemail. The final time, it stopped mid-ring, and I swear I heard faint breathing on the other end before the line went dead. At 1:13 a.m., I bolted to the storage room. This time, the footsteps outside the door were accompanied by whispering, low, unintelligible murmurs that made my skin crawl. I pressed my hands over my ears, rocking back and forth until the alarm buzzed. When the owner returned that morning, I handed him the clipboard and quit on the spot. He didn't look surprised, just nodded and handed me an envelope with my pay.
You did well,
He said.
Most don't make it through the first night.
As I walked away, I felt his eyes on my back, watching me until I turned the corner. I've been trying to forget those nights ever since, but sometimes, late at night, I hear a faint ding and feel the hairs on my neck stand on end. Some jobs aren't worth the money,